My dad, he would I was trying to interview him for this little documentary I was doing about him for his 80th birthday, and so I just wanted him to act natural. I was just going to ask him some questions and record him act natural. But I mean, first of all, he went to put on a suit and tie, and he sits all stiff, and he's answering me all formal and official like. I just said, forget it. But that's the older generation. They're not used to being in front of the camera. That's the way they get all formal. It's only the younger generations that can just act natural, like, because it's just filmmaking and recording is everywhere.
Yeah.
So they're just used to it.
Keeping the appearances.
Yeah.
Putting
So
on a mask.
yeah. I mean, literally, if you're about to do a videotape recording and they're older folks, they'll stand there, look at the camera, like they'll pose.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
Show the good side.
I asked this question to Eugene while we were driving up. Like, as fathers, how do you ever get scared that the message that has been taught to you growing up in this church, if you grew up or if you just converted into the message, like, that is not being accepted by them? They know what you know as truth, but it's not something that they necessarily want to practice, or maybe when they become teenagers, they're old enough to move out on their own. It might not be something that is a love for them as it became a love for you. Is that ever a fear for you in raising your children, or is it kind of
the younger generations that it's not in them, and it's surprising how little it's in them. I know we had an AY, our Family Life program, a couple of years ago, and we were talking to the younger kids. So it was, the older folks, the parents and the younger kids were sitting in front. We made them sit in front, and we're asking them questions about what they think about certain things. I think we gave them a survey too. We gave them a survey beforehand. We're reading it. So certain values, Adventist traditions and customs and values, and Christian customs and values, and it was amazing to find out, and we were shocked just how little the kids buy into, the stuff that we've been teaching them since they're born, and how little they buy into it. For example, living together before marriage. The question was raised: do you think it's okay? What do you think about living together before you're married? Couples living together before you're married, and most of them are saying, it's no big deal. The older folks, like my age and maybe older, you don't do that. To them, it's if you can save some rent, why not? And they didn't even understand why we had righteous indignation about that. They didn't understand why we were making it. So that's just one small example. But for some reason, a lot of these tradition values, they don't buy into it. What's that?
Oh, that's
What was that? You cracked the glass, man.
Do we have to run away?
No,
Okay.
I don't think so.
Yeah. For some reason, the younger generation are not buying into the traditional values, and I think it's because society is moving away from traditionalism and from biblical, literal interpretation.
I didn't get the question though.
So
What was the question?
The moles.
yeah, you were saying do we get afraid or concerned? Are any of us afraid or concerned that some of these things that we teach them, our kids will not buy into it? I'm paraphrasing.
Yeah.
But I'm telling you that a lot of the kids just don't. They're into social justice, and these things that are floating around in society, and it conflicts with our traditional Bible teachings. Race, when it comes to race, when it comes to sexuality, when it comes to sexual identity, things like that, what we teach them does not resonate with them anymore. It's just like bouncing off a wall. Furthermore, they're not doing some of the things we used to do. Like, we were in Sabbath school every Sabbath morning. Now they don't have, if you go to Shiloh on a Sabbath morning to bring your kids to Sabbath school, you'll be lucky if you find any Sabbath school.
Right.
When I was growing up, so that's one way we got a lot of the values got into us. A lot of the values I learned was from Sabbath school.
Right.
They're not having any of that.
Right.
I don't know how much worship families are doing.
Right.
Family worship families are doing. I think a lot of us are, but For some reason, maybe that's not enough.
Right.
But a lot of these kids will tell you, if you ask them, and I've asked them, Lisa's asked them, she does Sabbath school with younger kids too, I do too. Ask them point blank, what are you going to do when you don't have to come to church anymore? Are you still going to come to church? And they'll tell you, I'm talking about your guys' kids, my kids. They'll tell you point blank, they'll think about it, if they're going to come to church anymore.
Yeah, it's not automatic.
A lot of them say, maybe not. It doesn't matter. And they'll tell you point blank, they'll come, maybe if they come, it's because they're friends.
Right.
They're not bashful at all.
Yeah, because at this point, they don't have their own experience.
Right.
They're just kind of living off of the parents.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, so until they have their own experience with God and have that love where they're like, okay, I want to do this because this is what I want to do. Right now, they're just doing it because, well, if I don't do it, if I try not to do it, my parents are going to make me do it anyway. So why have that argument with them? Just get up and go and do it, and they get to see the friends.
Again, I say that church is for the older people. Do not do enough for the kids. It's not.
That's not necessarily true, though.
But no,
It's their perception.
no. But you gotta understand, it's their perception, and then we're telling them, "Hey, stay in here, listen to this." But it's not necessarily stuff that they can comprehend. And it becomes
I wouldn't say comprehend.
Not necessarily comprehend, but depending on the different ages.
It's not their interest.
But right, and then you have to, but then we have to try to make it
Interesting.
somewhat interesting to them. But then we cater towards more our needs, or older needs, as opposed to trying to get them, keep it that way, but to have them more interested. And I'm not saying to do anything.
And I mean, and to your point, sometimes I think that they just automatically have a preconceived notion of what church is now. So even if it is something like, I've seen times where, what's the guy that was there and he was talking about his experience where he was working in the grocery store packing the grocery bags, the pastor that came, and like he had all the youth engaged or whatever, and he was like pointing them out, and he wasn't there to speak to the youth. He was just there as an invited pastor, but he was engaging the youth at the same time.
Right.
But we had some that were outside,
Yeah.
and I was like, hey, why don't you guys come inside? Oh, I don't do that. I was like, what? Well, why not? Like, why are you always out here? Oh, it's boring to me. Da, 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 da. And I'm like, no, you should. This guy, just come listen. If you still think it's boring, then get up and walk out.
Right.
But they just were so close to even coming in and seeing what was happening, because it's like, in their mind, you're gonna think that it's the sight and noise. I'm like basing what I'm saying off of the fact that I'm looking at your peers in there laughing and engaging and he's talking back to the pastor and all of that. So I was just like, you're not even giving it a chance. You've just shut down completely to this because of whatever happened to you before. So sometimes we have to kind of analyze, okay, well, what was their experience? Why did they get here? Because if you don't know why they feel the way they feel, and sometimes it's hard to even get that information out of, because you're asking them, oh, I just don't want to. They won't give you a real answer that you can work with.
They really don't know what it is. Here's what happens: is that they have some unanswered questions in their mind, and if they sit down, you cannot dissect the question they have to answer and a question they did not ask. They're not interested. And the way they see church now, it's not what you say. They don't care about words. This generation, they care more about who you are. Who you are, what you're saying has done in you.
Yeah. They don't like getting lectured, this generation.
No, you come talking about the Bible, but I see you talking about your brother, or talking about this other people, talking
living
in their back. So what are you talking about, right? So this is what they are watching. When they see things like that, older people are fighting in church, and they are talking about loving each other. They are confused.
Yeah, they see the fakeness.
Yeah.
Yeah, hypocrisy.
So now they say, why do I come here? And I'll tell you, if they find a place where that can answer their questions, they have a lot of questions, and they need answers to these questions.
Yeah.
They are lost. If they find someone or a place that can help them define these questions and answer these questions, they will stay.
They need to.
And the thing is that older people are not, they want younger people to understand them instead of them trying to understand the younger people.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a good point. I'm in a WhatsApp group with some guys. All of them grew up at Adventist. Went to Adventist Academy. Some of them went to Adventist colleges. And still say, like one of them will say, like he had questions that he went and asked his pastor or asked the elders or whoever. And because his questions were challenging our beliefs, they were kind of shut down. Like don't, like basically like don't talk that stuff. Don't ask those questions. Like just accept it, type of thing. Like you give them a reason for why they should believe what you're telling them. Don't just expect them to sit there and take it. We tell them to be free thinkers and don't be followers and don't be all these things. But then the minute they challenge us, it's like no, just follow, just do as I said, you know. And then like you said, they see us doing opposite to what we say, and you know, it's just so many conflicting viewpoints that they get of Christians and of the church, and then they're just like, why am I here?
And one thing is that when we say the message is, it's like a business, right? It's a business. If I have a business in Haiti, there is a way to sell the product. When I bring the business here in the U.S., there is another way. I cannot sell the product the same way. I have to package my product, even though it's the same product. The package has to be different because I am bringing it to a different population, a different mindset. So now the message we have, it cannot change, but the way we present the message to this generation, it cannot be the same way we used to do in our own country or with older people. It won't work.
But the substance can't change, though.
The substance cannot change.
However, it's getting more difficult because the worldly values, liberal ideology, is going away from biblical teaching. So it's becoming increasingly hard to have biblical teaching resonate with your young people when in school, among their friends, social media, it's teaching something completely opposite. Right? So it's becoming more and more difficult. The devil is attacking the youth on multiple fronts.
Yep.
That's one way. Another way is the phones, the media. They cannot stay focused on worship and on the sermon and all that when they're wondering if their friends responded to their post. They're absorbed and obsessed with that, and everything else is less interesting to them.
Or they want to go and see what was posted.
Right.
So when we look at that and we see that they're so consumed with their phone, with media, in that way, we're looking at it, and we can't blame them because they're minors, right? We're the one who get them or who give them the device that they're using. So we have to find a way to either restrict it or to monitor it. There's a way. It's either we said, all right, look at it this way, and Sabbath from Friday evening, all right, you don't need it. You're not going to school. You're going to be with us for the whole weekend. You don't need your phone. So there's no need for you to take your phone to church. There's no need. You know, you come to church, you focus on what is at church. Be with your friends. If your friend is playing with his or her phone, you're not going to be with them. So if your friend want to be with you, they got to give up their phone as well. These are strategies that we can use to get. I mean, when we went, the director.
But the thing is that this is on the surface, right? It's not.
But it's a start.
I understand, but here's what happens: is that when you're trying to control the results of a thing, but not trying to control the thing, is it doesn't make a great effect.
Right.
The child can be with you with no phone, but they're not with you. Their mind is away.
So how do you, as say a 14-year-old, how do you control that? How do you get to the root cause of it?
But here is what happens. This generation, they're not about what we call Christianity, like talking.
Oh,
They want to make a difference in the world. This is what they are focused on. What am I doing here? Right? So they want to see, oh, are we serving the poor? Oh, wow, let's serve the poor.
That's true.
Yeah.
Are we giving food? Oh, let's give. Oh, we give.
their
This is
interaction.
what they are about. It's not a lot of talking and talking about things. It's they want to see actions. They want to see what they are doing.
and get results.
Yes, so they want to see the results. So, but we do church in a different way. We do church and just come and sit down and
Dictate.
We can see so, but we can. If the pastor that's gonna preach in the morning would come dressed like a poor person and sit down by the door, we will pass by the pastor without saying hi.
Right.
We get inside of the church and waiting for this pastor's gonna preach, and it was the poor person. But what are we doing with these things? Instead of, like these young people, they want to see, what are we doing, right? They are more humanitarian than just talking, like doing church, come and sing some songs and read a Bible and let's go home, right? They are more about helping.
Is that a good thing though?
It is a good thing, and in the sense of that, we need to find a balance.
The probability of them going and executing is probably higher than those that were comfortable sitting down in church and listening and going home. Like I was gonna say, one of the best responses I've ever gotten in Pathfinders was when Director Wisdom was the director. I was teaching the Explorer class, and I didn't want to be there, so I said, "Hey, let's go over to Kroger, and let's go and we're gonna do something at Kroger." So I drove them up to Kroger, and I said, "All right, we're going to tell them, pick anyone you want in here, and we're going to ask them. We're going to pay for their groceries, and we're going to pray with them." So they said, "Really? That's what we're going to?" Yes, let's do it. So they were nervous. I said, "Anyone?" I said they picked someone, and I paid for the groceries. They said. And I told Pathfinders, pray for them, and they prayed for them, and then they were like, "Wow, this felt good." And so they picked another one, and you could see their confidence building, and you
They were
could see that
interested, yes.
because they're like, okay, and especially when the people turned around and thanked them, and then started testifying to them and asking them, "Where do you go to church? Can I bring? What are you?" Then they started telling them about the Pathfinder Club and that type of thing. And so you could see that they enjoy, even though because they don't have those experiences. We're not creating those experiences for them. They're hesitant, but once they get into it, they thirst for that type of thing.
There's always a blessing in blessing other people.
Right.
But I have a question for you. When's the next time you're doing that, and which Kroger will you be at?
I had a budget.
What time are you going to be there? But it's good to get to the source of the problem, though, to figure out what is driving this. I mean, we know they're distracted. But
Mass distraction.
yeah.
Right. So back to the situation you were presenting with the phone. Instead of taking it away,
Right.
we could be involved in their lives and help them be creators instead of consumers of the media.
How can we do that?
We were at Oshkosh. We weren't there that day. But there were some girls at another club, or whatever, and they had their phone and they were doing interviews. They were just going up to different Pathfinders. They came up to our Pathfinder group and actually interviewed them. So one used their phone to video, the other was asking questions and stuff. So they were able to use that in that format.
Okay.
My daughter has
But even what you're doing, what you're doing when you invite the children to help you create the radio program,
Right. Okay.
Right, just create, and then you teach them, hey, we're creating this
That's
to
an awesome
benefit
idea.
to benefit others. We're not going to focus on this on Sabbath. Sabbath is for it, but we know you like engaging in this. So in this world, there's producers and there's consumers. We have to learn to be the producers.
Yes.
Right.
We're taught to be consumers.
Yeah, we're taught to be consumers.
So,
Right.
and it goes back to, I
I'll
can't
work
remember
with
who said
somebody.
it earlier, but I think you were mentioning it about how we're educated. We're educated to be employees. Actually, I think when you was talking
I may
earlier.
have said something like
We're educated to be employees and not employers.
Right.
You know, so very few people are going through school saying, when I finish this, I'm going to have my own business. They're saying, when I finish this, I'm going to get a good job at this company.
yeah.
You know, no, we should be looking to
Success.
have our own, and that way now we can be a blessing to somebody else
Yeah. Yeah.
and continue to, you know, you don't have to go punch somebody's clock and depend on somebody else, because when the borrower is serving to the lender, you're not borrowing money from your boss, but the concept of that person having control over your finances,
Yeah.
they have control over you, you know, to a certain degree that you allow them to.
Over your time.
But to what you were saying just now also about as far as like how to use social media, my daughter is actually, and this was something that she decided that she wanted to do. We just encouraged her in, and we're trying to kind of direct her as far as content. She started her own YouTube page.
Okay.
You know, and she loves. She's already posted a couple of videos and, you know, gotten some response back like that. And she's focusing on like mental health issues and things like that as it pertains to
awesome.
people her age. So
My daughter's been begging me for a Snapchat, and I've been resisting it, Lisa and I. But maybe there's a way to use Snapchat or use social media. Maybe I can tell, okay, we'll let you use it.
what's your purpose?
If you tell us how you're going to use it to help other people.
Yeah.
And as part of a ministry, as part of whatever, how you're going to make other people's lives
Yeah.
better. Maybe that might.
The goal shouldn't be to have it so you can look and see what everybody else is posting.
Well, you understand what
You know,
Snapchat
you
is,
should be
right?
posting something.
Yeah,
Not
Snapchat.
clearly.
Snapchat doesn't save anything.
No.
No, it's
Yeah.
actually
It'll be more so
Gone.
Instagram is really
Instagram would be
Instagram.
better for what you're trying to say.
For the content, yeah.
Because the content stays there. Well, except for if you do like the story thing, it'll be gone.
But I think Snapchat has become more popular now, hasn't it?
better. Because you take a picture,
Streets.
you send it, the picture disappears, so
Yeah.
it's more for clandestine
Yeah,
type.
it's superficial.
Yeah, yeah.
It's just, you know, it's that attention.
Well, let's get back to the subject at hand.
We're giving our brother counsel. You're always trying to direct us. You're always trying to direct us where you want us to go. Just let the Holy Spirit lead, brother.
Terminating my
All right, what were you saying, Pastor Walker? I can't help but,
You broke,
know,
you broke my train. You severed my connection. I got to talk to you.
yeah, talk to Wilkin for a minute, and then yeah, probably you get your
Holy Spirit, I
train of
needed
thought.
you
Yeah,
severed my.
I'll pray for you, man. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it.
Thank you.
But it's a very important topic with the youth.
It's extremely important, and it's critical
Yeah.
because I can see how the previous generations at my church have, to some extent, some of them, a lot of them have gone off the rails. Not all of them. Some of them have gone off the rails in terms of values. I'm not so much concerned about whether you come to church or not. I don't think coming to church is going to save you necessarily. I think whether or not the Spirit is in you, whether or not God's word is in you, whether you have a relationship with Jesus. And some of those biblical values they've abandoned. I mean, spectacularly. I mean, in our church right now, it's no big deal for young people to shack up, for example. And I don't know if I'm the only one that's dealing with the traditional value that we don't do that until we get married. But, you know, things like that, values that I thought were Adventist values forever, are gone, are dead.
So when you say it's no big deal, you mean as a thought, or meaning it's being practiced and people know
Being
about
practiced.
It's openly practiced.
Openly practiced.
it? Okay.
Yeah.
I must not come to
What?
church that often.
It's openly practiced.
And I think that's also part of the problem, because the younger ones see the fact that say you got the teenagers that see the 20-somethings doing stuff like that,
Yeah.
and then we aren't saying anything to them about what they're doing. But we want to say something to the younger ones about what they're doing.
Yeah.
And then also they see us, like we were talking about earlier, how we relate to each other. You know, we're over here having a good time now, but then they'll hear us over on the side. There'll be 2 or 3 of us, and we're talking about one of you that we were just sitting here with, and not in a good way, you know, and not something that we're gonna come say to your face. So then they hear that, they see that, and they're like, or it's our very own children when we leave church, and we get in our vehicle and we're driving home and we're saying, oh, they passed this, they passed that, or this elder this, or this person that, this sister so and so, brother so and so, and we're bashing this person down. But when we were at churches now, it was, hey, happy Sabbath, brother, sister. And you're hugging them and you're greeting them.
Being a hypocrite.
And they see that and they're like, you ain't about to use, you ain't about this life. What you are portraying to me and telling me to do, you're not even doing it.
I know there are leaders in our church that have a reputation for sexual immorality and things like that. And it's rumored among young people, and young people see that and make comments.
So the other thing I would say is that, because I dealt with this with a 21-year-old, soon to be 21-year-old, and a 19-year-old. And so we would tell them certain things we don't want, you don't want to do. And they would just flat out just give me names of people that they know are doing the things we're just saying don't do. Like, for example, like, so my biggest frustration I had with our son, I think you and I talked about this a little bit, is I can see the value of Christian education, because what happens is it doesn't mean that they're going to be totally isolated, but it helps you to manage a lot of the things that they typically deal with. So DJ runs track, and he's really good at it. So he had the opportunity to participate in like regionals. And you do regionals, which means it could lead to scholarships. And he was seeing all his friends getting scholarships. I'm like, nah, DJ, you can't do that. And he's like, the coaches want to talk to you. And he said, but Dad, I'm looking at Shiloh. This person runs on Friday night. This person runs on Friday night. This person plays in the band. This person does this. This person that. So when they see that now, and they're seeing you, say, well, so Dad, are you telling me that their parents ain't going to be saved? Are you telling me that they're not Christians? Are you saying that they're going to? That's the questions they pose. Are you saying they're going to go to hell? And he says, so you put us in a position. We're in this kind of setting now. And you're saying we can't do it, but I see everybody else is doing it, and they go to God, they go to church every Sabbath, and they're praising the Lord. So, Dad, help me understand that, and that becomes challenging. So, a lot of times we don't see the ripple or domino effect of what it means, because these kids talk, they all know each other, they all know what they do, and they have evidence to back it up, and then you're trying to, and so now you're considered the radical.
But what did you tell them?
Well, I mean, I stick to principle. I said you cannot always go by what you see others do.
Exactly.
We know what the principles are, and we have to do it. Now I'm gonna tell you what I did one time, and I said I'd never do that again. So they had a track meet Friday. Supposed to start at 6. Supposed to be over by 8:30 or 9 o'clock.
Preparation Friday.
So I'm thinking, okay, where me?
On your leg.
Oh, that's a blessing.
I'm not afraid of bugs.
I said, you know what? We're gonna comply. Be home by 9. We should be good. My son showed up at midnight.
Wow.
Yep, that's predictable.
All the time.
Yeah.
So never went down that road again, right? Because what they'll do, they'll start riding you. At least that's what my son did. Or Monique, she'll back up a little bit, but start just on and on and on and on. And I'm like, okay, so if it starts at 6, and it's not too far, man. Things don't start on time, delay, you're supposed to be there, he runs in the relay. If he's not running, it messes up the team, and you have that domino effect. So sometimes we put our kids in situations like what we did, because he went to GCA for a year, and he played basketball, never had to worry about the Sabbath, because everything was done. He went to Andrews, they brought the whole team there, and they played in a tournament the entire weekend, and within the confines of the Sabbath, never have to worry about that. So bear in mind, sometimes we put them in situations where it creates a lot of that, and then the other part of that is that they see it happening within church. Same, we all are hanging together, and he'll point it out and say, man, I got a picture of his child sitting up there on Friday night, and she goes every week, and so you're saying, so now they're like, I'm confused, you're telling me, and they're Christians, they seem to be faithful, they're religious and all of that, so it makes it challenging, guys. So when we're not staying true to who we are, and compromising, which is what happens a lot of times, it creates other challenges for other families.
Yes.
And I never understood that until I saw it in living color with my kids.
And you're not the only one though. That whole, they keep bringing it up and
Yeah,
to use the word, nagging you about it.
yeah.
And they try and reason
Oh,
of
yeah.
how it'll work.
Yeah,
and,
yeah,
you know,
yeah,
this
yeah.
and that. And you can see as a parent how it can go wrong. And you're like, this. But then you say, okay. Because sometimes the only way that they're going to see it, because they just think you don't understand. This is about 2 weeks ago. I had a conversation with my daughters in worship, and we were talking about, okay, you know, it's not always that, like, you guys think that we don't understand. Yes, you have new devices through which the temptations come, but the actual sin behind that temptation is the same sins that have been around forever. There's no new sin, you know. It's the same sins that have always been here. So the wrapper in which it's coming, and maybe it was in a Snickers wrapper before, now it's in a Twix wrapper. That's all that changed. The content inside, what it's trying to get you to do, is the same. So there's some basic principles as to how you can avoid doing that and staying away from certain things. And you're trying to share this with them, but like, oh, you don't understand because you didn't have this when you were younger. You didn't have that. Yeah, I understand. I didn't have those things when I was younger, but there were things that I did have that you don't have today. But it presented the same obstacle for me, and this is what I did. So now apply what I did to your situation. I'm not saying do exactly what I did, and it's getting them to understand that. Sometimes they don't want to hear it from us, and I love when the Lord takes what I say and puts it in somebody else's mouth. And a lot of times we may not want our children to take advice from other people, but it's good to have a community around your children of like-minded people, because we went to Tennessee to the property that I was talking about, and we were just sitting down eating, and the conversation came up in worship again on the Sabbath evening, and one of the adults that were there said exactly that, like, you know, oh well, you know, do something, you should listen to your parents, because although they may not be going through it the way you did, they went through it in a different way, and so they're trying to give you counsel so that you don't have to make the same mistakes and you can learn from it and whatever. And they're sitting there, and I'm like, I said I didn't say anything to them about what we talked about,
But that's your word.
so who do you think told them to say that? Because then now they can see, okay, this is divinely inspired. This is not just mommy or daddy saying stuff off the top of their head. No, this is because now this person's come to me and said the exact same thing, and they didn't have a conversation about what we talked about, and they just brought it up out of the blue. Like this other adult brought it up out of the blue. So it's like,
And you do need that divine intervention, man, because a lot of times you can do so much, and sometimes hearing it from a different flavor from somebody else, because that's what happened to me. Some of you heard me tell the story of DJ. I want DJ to go to Oakwood in the worst way. And my mother got on me one day. She said, "You got some nerve. You know what kind of grief you put us through going to Oakwood? You didn't want to go." I was like, I forgot. I said, yeah, you're right. And in fact, my negotiation was them. I'll go for 1 quarter, and I'm going to go to California. The backstory to that is that my grades were bad. So first year in college, I had like a 1.5 GPA. Now, I went to school every day, never missed a class, but I didn't know how to study, right? And so my mother had gone to Oakwood for something personal ministries, so she was always involved with that. And so she came back fired up and said, you know, you should go. I'm like, I'm not going to Oakwood. You kidding me? I'm going back to school. I'm going with my friends. I'm going to UCLA. And I said I was going to go UCLA. Good or well, my grades will never get me to UCLA. So fast forward, I go down there for 1 semester and totally forgot that I had made the commitment that I was going to be there. It was on a quarter system. Quarter system. I was going to be there 1 quarter. I was going to come back home. Fell in love. Wow. So here I am now trying to convince my son to go to Oakwood. He said, Dad, I ain't going to no Oakwood.
Fell in love with the school or with a woman?
Huh?
Fell in love with the school or with a woman?
Who?
You said you fell in love.
Over the school.
Oh, okay.
I had a girlfriend. She broke up with me. So that's why I was trying to go to California.
She went to California.
She was at La Sierra. And I said, I'm gonna go to UCLA. So everybody said, "What you going to do?" I'm going to UCLA, man. No grades for that. So fast forward now. So I'm dealing with my son. I said, Dad, I'm not going to Oakwood, man. I'm staying local. I said, okay. DJ, you gonna go Oakwood? Nah, Dad, I'm not going to Oakwood. I don't want nothing to do with the school. And then he plays basketball one Sunday because he used to play for West End Church, so that church league. And he plays, and he's walking out of the park, walking to his car, and there's a guy ahead of him who apparently shows up twice a year. He happened to be there this Sunday. Shows up twice a year. DJ happened to be there. So the guy presses his button to open his car. I don't know what the guy was driving. Whatever car he was driving caught DJ's attention. He likes cars. And DJ says, "Wow, it's a nice car. Man, what is it that you do?" So I'm a dentist, I'm an orthodontic dentist. He said, "Yeah." So I go to this little school, I'm probably never heard of it, called Oakwood College. And then the guy goes on to say something else to him. I don't know what he said. DJ comes home, said, "Yeah, Dad, I met this guy, and I'm going to Oakwood." So I want to go. So I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm trying to be all cool. I'm like, what do you mean, man? What happened? So I'm thinking it's emotional now. That time that was in his junior year. DJ never deviated. Never. So my point is, God will use other people
too,
and that's what this guy did. This guy had such an impact on him that,
there is one thing too we need to understand, because at this age they are trying to define themselves. They're trying to know who they are, but they want to find someone they can look up to. So when they look at their parents, they say, "Do I want to be like my dad?" I don't think so. Right? If you don't have an impact in their life, and they see success as the car, right? What type of car you drive? What are they proud of what you have achieved? Do you make an impact in their lives? Now they look at you. They say, "Do I want to be like my dad?" I don't know. If yes. Do I want to be like the pastor? I don't know. So when they look on TV, they see these guys, out of nowhere, throwing money in the air, driving these cars, a lot of women following them, and with a lot of power. I want to be like this guy, right? So where did he go? What does he do? He smoked. Oh, okay. Well, I'm gonna have to do that too. He let his hair or something. Oh, I'm gonna have to. Or he used the pants. Oh, I'm gonna have to do that too, right? Because this is what he does. And look how he is cool, right? So they start to define themselves based on what they see success is. So now, if in our community we don't have anyone they can look up to, they say, "I want to be like you, man. I see, you make an impact in my life." They want to know where you went to school. They want to do exactly what you did. They even want to speak like you speak, because they want to be like you. So now, what is the impact we have on them as the one they should be looking up to? Do we have any impact in their lives? Would they like to be like us? That's the question.
Are we spending enough time with them to see that they should be like us or want to admire us? Because when I was younger, Adventism monopolized my time. I went to Adventist school. I was in Pathfinders.
Adventist home.
And so now that I'm reflecting on it, there was never an opportunity for me to even witness what was going on in the world outside of the few minutes or hours.
That's critical.
Right. Outside of the hours I'd watch television, and my television watching was restricted. So because of that, the only examples that I had were Adventist. And I mean, as I was growing up, I was aware of some of the sins of those examples, but it wasn't that the sins were glorified. As in, yeah, this person has a boyfriend and is probably doing something. It's like, let's say I'm a 12-year-old. I would know which 19 or 20-year-old might have been sleeping with their boyfriend, but it was never, yeah, that's something good to do. I want to be like that.
Yeah.
You understand? And it's sometimes we have to, as parents, we should be aware of the environments that we let our children in. So, like, I'm a proponent of Adventist education, not because I think that Adventist education is perfect. It's because I know that the difference between Adventist education and the world is, while you could go into a public school, you have a whole bunch of examples and may not have a example of the good. At least there's a good example, or the propensity to have a good example in the Adventist school is significantly higher.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
as you
true.
said, even if there's a bad example, it's not glorified.
It's not glorified. True. That is true.
It's just a matter of your kids are basically being brainwashed as they grow up, as we were. So you have to reduce the evil influences and increase the good influences. But nowadays, because in the world, and I try to teach my kids this, learn to distinguish between the Spirit, things of the Spirit, and worldly things. So the world is teaching values through movies, music, everything else, social media, certain worldly values. If it feels good, it's good. Religion is only useful insofar as it serves our needs. It teaches humanism, that we are the ones that establish right and wrong without need for any religion. Things like that in the world, that's, if you pay attention, it's being preached every day. And to the extent your kids spend a lot of time watching movies, listening to those music, social media, whatever it is, that's what they're feeding into. If you spend less time, if they spend less time with you in worship or just hanging out, learning your values, then your values are going to be down here. And that's why they walk out of church when they get free, because they don't understand you. So, and then nowadays with the phones and all this, they don't learn from us that much because they're in their bedrooms with their things in their ears. And they don't have a relationship with us. So I think we have to be careful. We have to make an effort to make sure their minds are being trained not according to the world, but according to Christ. So.
Very important.
And see, settings like this, to me, is a good place to start. You know, meaning, you know, if you can find a place where you can go, just you and family, and try to shut everything down. Because they honestly don't think they can survive without it. They really can't.
This is a thing that I remember. I don't think it's the last camp that we went to, but the one before, when we took away the
You
phones.
put them in the bag. I remember that,
And we do that. And it's amazing because after a few hours, it was like everything was normal. You know, they didn't miss it, or they go back and start doing things with each other, and they start playing together and doing stuff like that. You know,
a whole new world.
And that is what we have to bear in mind and teach them, that you can survive without this device. Even though you believe that you can't survive without it, you can survive. And your life will be somewhat, especially at camp, more productive without it than with it.
That's right. We have an iPad in the house, and before we used to connect the internet on it. And the kids, they would get up in the morning early. We don't know they to the iPad. Before they eat, to the iPad, whatever, iPad. Okay, I say, okay, now disconnect the internet on the iPad and leave it there, right? So now they're normal, right? I mean, it's normal. They can play with blocks and play with other things, but not trying to find an iPad all the time. So the thing is that when they have it, it seems like they really cannot live without it. But once they don't have the option, they will find, because
Quickly
their
replace it.
brain, will
replace
replace it with something else.
My
Right?
kids, miracles happen when I take their devices away from them. Their relationship with each other immediately.
They hug you
blossoms.
more.
They jump on the piano, start playing the piano.
That's right.
My son goes out, starts making a go-kart. I mean, it's genius. It's fantastic.
But we went Tennessee. It was like 2 weeks ago. I mean, you've been up there. It's no signal, dead. And so the people, they're just moving in, so they don't have any internet set up yet. None of that. So it was literally like no one had said. Like I was go outside and walk around because I had found the last time I was there, I went in a special like this area and my phone started just going off. Bing, 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 bing. I'm like, okay, this is the spot. So I knew where I could go, but they were just inside the house and no social media. And we went there from the Sabbath afternoon till Sunday evening. And the amount of laughter and just playing and joking around, 4 kids just having
Makes
a
a
good
difference,
time
man.
with no electronics
Yeah.
at all whatsoever, unless they were taking it out to record what they were doing. And it was just like, look at that.
I think the
You know?
clear state of emergency though, because in my house, because last week, and I hear about this all the time, but it doesn't slap me in the face until last week when I tried to put in, don't judge me, foxnews.com, and immediately I saw pictures of naked women. I must have put in a wrong
Fox
letter.
News. Oh, you were online.
I was online. I must have put in a wrong letter or something, and a different website came up, and it was just nudity, a porn site. Wow. And I wondered, wait a minute, if it was that easy, then what are my kids looking at?
But when you put it in, did you see a drop down on the URL address bar and it showed the site preview?
I didn't pay
The
attention to it. No, I didn't.
Because that will tell you that somebody's been there before.
So what he's saying is that probably your kids have been on that site before. That's why it was so easy for you to get on there.
So stay on the
But you can do, and this is one thing that I had to implement. There's a lot you can do nowadays with the routers and stuff. You can restrict.
Yeah,
You can
certain
restrict
sites.
like by what's it called? Like ratings. You can restrict by time limits. You can have it where like my kids like from. I think I have it set up from like 10 o'clock. Like I could right now go on my phone and cut the access off.
I hear about that stuff.
Right
I
now.
just haven't had the time to.
Yeah, you can
figure it
set
out.
like my kids can only get
Stewardship
access
of
between
time,
8
man.
and 10. But then even with that access, and I did that because they're homeschooled, so they got a stream. That's why it's so long, 8 in the morning till 10 at night. But I also have it where it tells me, like, when they get to 3 hours, I got a notification. You know, so at some point today, well, not now, but maybe by like tonight at some point, I'll get a notification at 2 hours and 55 minutes to let me know they've been on whatever device for however
Coming
long.
up.
And if I want to, I can just say, okay, pause that device.
I need that.
What is it?
That's just to the Xfinity mobile app.
Yeah,
No, that's your router.
Xfinity mobile. If you have Xfinity Wi-Fi, just get the Xfinity mobile app.
But you can control that on your iPhone too.
Yeah.
I told you that.
You tell me.
Yeah, you need a class. You need a class so someone can sit you down and walk you through this. Yeah. We'll arrange that. Don't worry
You
about
can do it on
it.
your phone.
We're gonna have to arrange that.
So just a quick praise report. So that was our area coordinator calling us. So again, I'm telling you what happens with these kids, right? So you give them the exposure because we had Pathfinder Adventure Day last week. So we had these kids sang in the praise team that, and you all would admit, was amazing.
Okay.
So they got, I forgot they got invited to Mount Olives. So she just called me to say you would have been blown away with your kids. They represented Shiloh so well. They sang, and now they've been invited somewhere else to sing. And Marina already invited them to be on their program the end of this month.
Oh, they sang in Class A?
They did for Shiloh, but not for today. Yeah, it would have been nice to have them in Class A, but they were there to sing, and so they sang for their program.
Nice.
So she was just calling me, the coordinator, to let me know you would have been proud of the kids. They really represent
So why she
Shiloh.
didn't call me?
Maybe because
My kid is there.
she's doing it behind that ball. And she know I would.
I'm joking.
Unlike
Come
you,
on.
she know I was going to tell everybody. You would have just kept it to yourself.
One of our kids are there. Yeah, that's true.
See, and
That's the exposure I was talking about.
Yeah.
So now they're ministering, right?
Yeah.
And the kids get excited about that.
Yeah,
and so
right,
now
exactly.
people are noticing their gifts because they
They're
got
gifted.
amazing
Come
gifts. You
on.
saw that.
Yeah.
I mean,
And now-
so you open that door and it just keeps on opening up to other, and that's how you
But
do
what you need to
ministry.
start doing that now is take the one like that wants to be on social media,
and start producing.
and that one go with them to record it and make a website based off of, a
And that's
YouTube
what-
page
that's
based
what
off
you
of whatever
were
they're gonna
saying,
call themselves, whatever they're calling the group, Glory and Praise. Then they have a YouTube channel, Glory and Praise,
Right.
and every time they go somewhere and sing, you're uploading that onto that thing.
The skills they
And so you're
learn.
getting more people involved. They learn how to edit
Right,
and do all
right.
sorts of things, and then they
All
can do
these
behind the
things, yeah.
scenes stuff where they're just practicing and just when they're getting ready to go do stuff. Put all that content up there. People start coming and looking. It's going to get them more invitations to go places. It gets them engaged and involved in what they're doing, and who knows, it could blossom into something where somebody says, "Hey, listen, I want you guys to do a CD." You know,
I'm not really bragging,
No.
but I believe no I believe I believe Shiloh right now for kids is the place to be.
They're amazing, man. Those kids are amazing. They're very.
It's the place to be, man. If
Well, singing is for the extrovert kids. What about the introverted kids?
that's the ones that's on the camera.
Yeah, that's
The production,
We have
the
one.
editing,
We have one right now.
behind the scene,
We have one right now. Eden.
okay, yeah,
What's his name from Ethiopia?
yeah.
Yeah, she doesn't want to be in Pathfinders, but her dad has got her, so she's behind the scenes doing a lot of the media and loves it. So now you take that and channel it where she's seen something she loves, and that's what he was talking about. He was talking about how he wants to incorporate all these young people, so that
Yeah, I
now
was
they're
just talking
running the
about that.
production.
Yeah.
So they're on the floor cameras, they're doing all the production, and that's how you. So now you're appealing to all the masses, because the young people, the adventurers and the pathfinders, they are the face of the young people as far as ministries, and so they're out there in front of the public. So if you get that going and people connect, people. That's why you saw 7 church. We had 7 clubs showed up on Sabbath.
Wow.
Because they're seeing them at other places, and so we support you. They support us.
See, and that's what you just said. That's what's happening right here, right now. That was the whole play. Like, instead of us operating, you're over here, you're over there, you're over there. Like, let's all come together. And I mean, for me, the idea came from back home. Like I said earlier, Marina's about it's 21 square miles, and then you have this church that got a program on, that church got a program on, and this church. You got 3 churches program on the same weekend, and then for the next 3 weeks of the month, there's no
nothing.
program. Why don't you all work it out where you're doing this weekend, you're doing that weekend, so there's always something going on, and we're all saying, hey, let's go here. You're inviting people to that place. Even if you don't go yourself, or you're giving out the link, here, look, you can watch the stream on this link or whatever, and that way, now when Shiloh's having something and we're all coming over, let's be honest, churches look to get revenue. You lift up an offering, you got all these people coming because everybody's supporting. So the church is going to be happy on that side. Plus, you're evangelizing whoever comes out to these meetings, and then the next church does it. Everybody's benefiting. All the churches will be growing because wherever people are closer to, or whatever church they feel has the present truth that they need for where they're at for that time. They're gonna go and they're gonna gravitate to that church. So somebody may say, I want to go Shiloh because I like the way Shiloh worships. I want to go Pisgah, I like the way Pisgah. I want to go Hiram, I want to go here, wherever it is, because I like the way they worship. That's what they need at that time. That's how they're gonna connect to God. Let them grow from that and do it that way. But we have to work together. When we start trying to keep doing things as this little single operation, why? Like this weekend here happened because we proved